Welcome to EMS Underground. I'm Charles, and we're a little off today. Slide this way for me. There you go. Hey, I'm Charles McFall.
Tom, can't complain.
You're going to drag it out there, I see. All right, well, we're getting things set as we do here on the show. But today we're going to ask a paramedic anything. It's a little something I offered last week when Tom was out. I don't know if you want to talk about while you're out, but how you seem like you're still dealing with some ramifications.
Yeah, surgery can be rough, and I just, I'm really tired today. So if I'm dragging a little bit, that's why, y'all.
That is it, and I am getting the stuff pulled up on the EMS, Georgia Institute of EMS is what I'm getting pulled up, so we can see the show live. This is, as we say every week, a new medium, so we're going to need you to like, share, heart, and we don't have an easy way to see the chat room, so that is what I'm doing right now, as Tom is too. We're trying to pull up the chat. We have to go live first, and then we can see the possible chat of everything. So I want to make sure it's all going well. And there we are. I do see it. So I'm going to check the comments here. Oh, of course, you're going to play my audio. There we go. All right, I've got the chat ready where everything's ready. I'm getting my document pulled up because, Tom, I went and collected us definitely some questions.
Oh, cool.
So a while back, I got thinking, well, we're gonna need a lot of topics. Did I not call it EMS Underground?
Way to go.
Well, yeah, that's make sure I'm logged into the right account. So yeah, I went and looked. I did some great work. I promise. I did some great work. I went and looked at. I just said, ask a paramedic anything, and there was a site at one point, some kind of job site, that had that. And the first page and a half of questions, some paramedic had answered, and some of the questions were good. Some were standard, goofball, don't know medicine questions. But then there was pages on pages of questions that were not answered. And it would have been helpful if I'd actually pulled this up before we started. So, okay, I asked a question the last time we were together. There was a question from this document that I asked you. It was, have you ever killed somebody in your truck? Have you had a lot of people die in the back of your truck? And how did you feel? No, it was, have you had anybody die in the back of your truck? And how did you feel the first time?
Well, I think any medic that's worked any more than 2 years is going to have somebody who crashes on them in the back of the truck.
I agree.
And it is kind of rough because whenever you go from picking somebody up, let's say they're having chest pain, and you're talking to them, you load them up in the truck, you're going down the road, and then all of a sudden they go unresponsive, and they're in VFib before you know it. I mean, it can be a rush at the moment, too, especially if you get the save. Whenever you get the save, that's great. You're at the top of the world. What's bad is when you don't get the save. And you kind of always question, like, what did I do? And the thing is, I don't want it to sound like that's a bad thing. It's good that you question yourself. You go back, look at what you did, figure out what you could have done better. What did you do good? Continue doing what you did well. Nobody's perfect. I don't care how good a physician you are or how good a nurse you are, you're not going to work the best code. And when we're back there by ourselves, for the most part, either we have a partner back there, and as an advanced EMT or a paramedic, you could be working a code by yourself for 5-10 minutes. I mean, what's the standard for being a perfect code by yourself? It's hard to find one. So you do the best you can. And,
So that's the first question. I found the document, and that was it. Have you had lots of patients die in your ambulance? Well, have you had lots of patients die in your ambulance? Are you
No.
Dr. Death, Tom?
No. We used to have.
He's got to go let his wife in. So I'll jump in a little bit while he comes back. So I told him for one of my first, I had been on the job. Well, okay. Oh no, I didn't tell my first death. I told like my second or third one when I was working with Ethel Regional. So my first job that I could get, green out of school, the only people that hired me was this fly-by-night ambulance service up in North Atlanta on Northside Drive. I don't even remember the name of it now. Because here's the thing. They held 2 weeks for your uniforms, right? I do the quotey fingers. Then they paid 2 weeks behind. So I had to work for 6 weeks before I saw my first paycheck. So they went bankrupt in 5 weeks. Yeah, I know. It was a mess. That is the one I kind of referenced saying, we didn't take any drugs or anything, but we did acquire gear. But we're non-emergency transport only. And we had taken somebody to, I don't even remember the hospital we went to in Atlanta. And we're sitting there at the ER, and we'd already taken the patient in. And I was putting the truck back together like a good EMT. And this construction worker comes run up, hey, Bob's dead, you got to come out. And right behind the parking lot, there was some construction area. So my partner was stunned. I was stunned. I was like, well, I'll grab the jump kit because I was a superhero, right? I was right out of school. I was 18 years old. I think it was 18. Anyway, I was like, I'm going to take a jump kit. I'll run up there. You find a way to get around the parking lot and get up there. So I come up there and I do, baby, you okay? But, so like, hey, kid, I pull my glove. And as I'm starting to pull on the second glove, I'm doing my scene assessment. And I notice the guy's laying flat. He's not responding. And I'd say a good 2 feet from his head where his brain's. So, and I stopped. I went, how do you process that, right? And I'm like, first time I've ever seen anything like this. So
you were seeing what he was thinking about?
That was a good one. We need more of that, Tom. Surgery did you good. So I paused, and I'm still trying to set, the habits are kicking in. I'm looking, and I can see a double tire track leading right up to his body, where his feet were on the ground and leading past him. And it turns out, and an ER doc had been right behind me. So I'm like, the doctor was like, what'd you find? I'm like, well, I found his brains. And I went, yeah, I think we might call this one.
Yeah, that one's not.
Yeah. And so what happened was he wasn't paying attention to the backup alarm. And they were doing it unsafe. They were about to go to lunch. The guy was walking back to wherever their stuff was. And the other guy's backing up the dump truck. And he knew the dump truck was backing up. He heard the doot. Just never turned around once. And his buddy, his coworker, of course, it's a dump truck. You don't even feel it, right? Tagged him, knocked him down, and just completely ran him over. It was like a Far Side cartoon. I mean, it put all the pressure in his body where his brain shot out of his skull. It was, yeah. It took a while to process that because, again, at the time especially, I read a lot of Far Side, so my brain compensated by just making it a cartoonish kind of thing. My partner had nothing to say to me. I don't know why not, but he had nothing to say to me. So I just kind of processed it, and I always kind of made it a laughing matter a little bit. It was tragic because it did kick in. I will say, at some point in that day, it kicked in. He left. I had no idea if he had wife and kids, but he left his wife and kids this morning, and it started to get really heavy. And I immediately went, nope, I can't do that to myself. I got to let that go.
You do kind of figure out how to block those emotions a little bit, but they do eventually come to get you. I mean, that's why you have to, like you heard what I said, the little crack about, you can see what he's thinking about. That's how we release those emotions. We can't look at this as being too human. It's a job.
Right.
However, to be human, we have to take that out. That doesn't mean we're not human. That just means we're trying to do the best we can, to save you. Because when you get on the scene of these accidents and you see blood splattered everywhere, people screaming, people crying and stuff, a normal human response is to feel bad or to feel afraid or to be nervous, right? That's your normal.
I get angry, actually.
That's your or get angry
screaming.
or something.
I get You react.
There's some kind of reaction.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But as an EMT or paramedic, we have to control those emotions. We have to stay calm and we have to do our job because we have a job to do and we have to do it. We have to look past all the screaming and the crying, the feeling sad. Yeah, do I feel sad for the mom or the wife that just lost her husband? You're darn right I do. But at that moment, I don't. You know?
Yeah, we're there to treat a problem. I talked about this a little bit last week when you were gone. We practice on dummies, the whole thing. So it's almost a desensitization. I don't know if it's ever intentional by instruction. Is it? Okay. Good. I couldn't remember.
It's called, the technical term for it is whenever you're trying to prepare responders for what they're doing. It's like if you don't want to get the flu, you go and get a flu shot. I know that's controversial, but for the CDC and a lot of smart people out there say the flu shot does work. It's worked for me. If you don't want to get hepatitis B, then go get the hepatitis B shot. You don't want to get polio, get the polio vaccine. You get vaccinated, right?
Sure.
Well, there is a quotation mark vaccination process to get you prepared or for these scenes, and it's done through. We're showing you gory pictures. We're getting because the first time you see somebody's brains laid out on the floor, should not be on a call, and that's one of your first patients.
Right.
You should see that. You should be prepared for that. So that kind of inoculates you for that emotional response. Like an evisceration. Eviscerations can be the worst. That's where your guts are like spilt out.
I've never had one, luckily.
Yeah, I had one like from here to here. It was pretty bad. But the first time you should at least have seen that in a textbook or in a a presentation or something, so that you know, and you should train for it too. When you were in school, you should have gone over, okay, the patient's eviscerated, what are you going to do? That's the inoculation process to get you forward. Now we see how this works, that it is a process that works because we see it in children who are immune to some of the violence that's going on in the world now. And they say it's because they've been playing violent video games, or watching violent movies. Well, that gets so
or
it's
seeing
not
the nightly news
or some type of media. They're exposed to it. Whenever you're going down the road and they see a fight or something, it's not a big deal. It's just them fighting.
Right.
It's like a kid growing up in a house where the parents are fighting all the time. Well, eventually they just get used to it.
Yeah.
Same thing with us. Eventually, you run a call and you run a car wreck, dude's ejected, femur, they're all messed up. The next call you run a gunshot, you may run some nausea and vomitings and some stubbed toes and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, you're running a fall, construction accident. You get used to like, oh, well, it's no big deal. But whenever you're talking about it at home at Thanksgiving, oh, what'd you do at work? Everybody else is kind of like, oh, my goodness, But
the Tommy boy, the new medic is over on the side of the room going, and the old man's like, get us some help, people have died.
Hey, what was that? Remember that Monster commercial for Monster Jobs or whatever? Is that the job site?
Yeah, there's
And the guy, it's got 3 people in the ambulance and the guy's in the back. The 2 get out of the front of the car wreck, and he gets out the back and comes up with a stretcher, and he looks and he sees the patient and he goes,
he falls over.
And then it was if you're not in the right career, come see us, So yeah, but our goal is to try to get you ready for that, and that should be an educated.
Another
goal.
step of that is everything's in dummies, right? They're humanly similar, but they're not human beings, and we do everything on them, and that helps because when you walk in and people are flipping out, you don't need to look at people, you don't need to look at their life, you don't need to have all these puzzle pieces put into place. You need to treat the problem, and that's if the person is nice to you and freaking out. That's if the person's angry and a jerk, you being combative, anything like that. Because if somebody swings at you right now, if I try to take a punch, you'd be mad.
All right.
But if a patient takes a swing at you, it helps to know you're fixing the problem. Now, if you get hit, it's a human thing. You're gonna get mad anyway. And some
you're going to
people
protect yourself.
Yeah, and some people will overreact and do some really stupid things. But in general, your mindset is not, this dude wants to fight. Your mindset as a medic is, I have to fix the problem. This is not what they're doing.
on that, talking about getting hit or something, in any of those situations as an EMT or medic, is you have to be in control. Even if you do get punched in the face, that does not give you the right to go off on your patient.
Right.
Legally, you're supposed, in self-defense, you're only supposed to do enough to get away. You're not there to retaliate or to give punishment.
Them. You can do all kinds of things.
I remember I was a paramedic student in clinical, and I remember this today because, it's a long time ago. And we were in the hospital. I was doing an ER clinical, and ambulance crew brought in a patient on the stretcher. And the medic was getting ready to move the patient from his stretcher to the hospital stretcher. Well, the patient is strapped in, so he goes to unbuckle him, right? And something happened, and the guy punched the medic in the face. Now, the guy is still strapped. His legs are strapped.
Okay.
And his pelvis is strapped.
All right, so
but he only did the chest strap off. And the guy's still in the stretcher, and the medic just climbs on the stretcher and started wailing on his face.
Oh, man.
Well,
the former medic climbed on the stretcher
and climbed up. Yeah, because that medic got arrested and was taken away. Because, one, that's highly unprofessional. The guy was strapped to the stretcher. If he thought that his life was in danger, all he'd do is walk away.
I think any cop in the world would have looked away if he hit him once back.
Yeah, once.
Not that that's right or legally correct. I'm saying if he had pop, a cop would like, all right,
Employer may not. I don't think their employer would have. Right. Because the hospital was
you said he got arrested. Well, because he assaulted.
His eye was freaking swollen shut and his mouth was bleeding. And it took security and everybody to take the medic off of him. That's, that one hit, all right, did not elicit that response. That guy probably had some issues going on. That was just like, man,
that was the trigger.
But still, even when you're in this field, we're in it for the patients. If the patient hits you, spits on you, or whatever, your mindset has to be like, there's something wrong with him. And I'm here to help him. I'm not here to hurt him. It's not our job to hurt.
Right.
But if you feel like you're in danger, you should just leave. If you got to hit or do something because you're in danger, you're only allowed to do enough so you can get away.
Right. And it's never punitive. It
should never be punitive.
Yeah, it's never. You just don't have that right. Now, here's the thing, too. I know at the time that I rode, there was a federal law that essentially says if you assault me when I'm officially doing my job, it's a federal offense, like assaulting a police officer.
I don't know if those are in place anymore. There's a lot of discussion. I know there's nothing federal anymore about that. There's a lot of states. There's assaulting EMS personnel is a big thing right now. But it's not just EMS personnel. It's nurses and hospital staff.
Yeah, anybody's doing a job to help you.
But, in reality, though, we don't get assaulted. I don't think we get assaulted near as much as the nurses do.
Probably not.
The nurses get a lot.
Females in general, females are perceived. I'm stressing perceived, not factual, as weaker, as not, as somebody who won't fight back.
People will
take that. Yes,
a little more ballsy to do it.
Exactly. Somebody's not going to swing at me, but they might swing at your wife, who's a nice, 5 foot little lady. Who's a nurse, and because that's just a huge size difference. But two, it is just a perception thing, and they do get assaulted more.
The problem has been in the industry with it, and I'm glad this is getting into a good topic for today about the assaults. Is that a lot of times the companies, the businesses, and the hospitals are covering it up. So now you've got like nurses unions and nursing associations and stuff who are actually leading the way for all of us to say, no, it's a crime to assault anybody, healthcare worker or not. Just because you're sick does not give you a right to hit somebody.
Right.
Because you're not getting the pain medicine you want,
or grabbing. Assault can be a wide range.
That's the other thing too. The poor nurses, they get like grabbed and stuff. That happens all the time, and they should not ever be exposed to that. Neither should the medics or the EMTs. None of us should. We're professionals, and we're there to do a job. We're not there to be abused. And that's what used to make me mad all the time, because the public sometimes perceives us as servants. You know, how many times have you gone to a house and it's like a 20-something-year-old male or female sitting upstairs vomiting? Well, ma'am, how many times have you vomited today?
Just
Twice. Maybe once or twice. Okay. Well, let's take you to the hospital. Okay. You going to get the stretcher? No, I'm not bringing the stretcher up these three flights of stairs.
Right.
You know, you can walk. Just because you're nauseated and vomiting doesn't mean that you can't walk.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, so the public has this perception sometimes of wanting to take advantage of. Now, as a professional, you can handle that in a couple ways. You can say, like, heck no, what's wrong with your feet?
Yeah.
You can walk. And or you could present it like, look, ma'am, it's going to be a lot quicker for us to get you down. Now, that doesn't mean you don't help. You know, you should be like help under their arms, holding them, helping them down the steps. You know, and at some points you may have to carry them down the steps, or something, and be ready for it. But that doesn't mean you have to carry your stretcher all the way up, and stuff. And the other thing is where they tend to get violent and stuff, and it has nothing to do with us. Sometimes is that whenever we get there, and they hear us give report, and the nurses say, okay, take them to triage. And they'll be so upset. No, I'm paying for an ambulance ride. I should get to go to the back.
It's not a magic key,
it's not,
it's
no,
really not.
It's not.
And I would tell people that when I was in Covington, it's towards the end of my career, so I was a little more honest about. Say, I would never tell somebody you shouldn't get on my ambulance. I drew a line at legally giving advice, because it's a fine line. I mean, it's a hazy shade of gray where when you start approaching that line. But I tell them, somebody who they were sick or whatever, they want to, okay, I will be more than happy to take you to the hospital. I'm going to tell you, it's the flu season. I am finding no vital signs that say they're going to let you in the back door, because that's how we always reference it, if we're being honest. It's the back door of the ER versus the front door. So they're going to put you in triage. I just tried to warn us. I'm still going to take you. I'm just letting you know. And 9 times out of 10, I think it's 10 out of 10. I don't think I was ever wrong about that one. Sure enough, we'd come in the back door. They'd heard a report. All right, take them out the triage.
Yep.
I was just honest with the patient the whole time.
But then the patient gets upset at us. Like it's our fault.
Yeah.
It's not our fault.
It's
medicine. It's priority. You know, calling an ambulance or going to the emergency room is supposed to be an emergency. You know,
and it is an after-hours clinic, unfortunately. I mean, I've had to use that as an after-hours clinic before, personally. But I go in the front door. I didn't call an ambulance. Right. Yeah, I didn't use my connections
and be ready
to get in the
wait.
back door. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what I like. You know, like urgent care. I've been, like, after my surgery, I had bronchitis. You know, which sucks. And I mean, I went to urgent care. I went to urgent care, and it, you know, was pretty quick.
That's cool. Not everybody has urgent care.
They're everywhere now.
Are they?
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, like, there are Conyers, there's urgent care clinics, like, right down the road from my house.
Very cool.
You know, so I would say, like, you know, people need to try the urgent care clinics. Because you go to the ER, and if it's not an emergency situation, you're going to wait.
Right. Now, you mentioned being treated like a servant and being told what to do. There's proper ways to handle it, and then there's improper ways to handle it. And I've tried both on one call. So my partner and I got called out to Seizures. It was 2 in the morning or something like that. It was not super late, but early enough. And the police officers in Conyers, the police officers went on pretty much anything they wanted to. There were certain calls they had to go on, but even medical calls, if they didn't have much going on, or something felt weird or whatever, they'd go check it out. And I knew the sergeant that was on scene. And we get him, the guy had absolutely had a seizure. Without a doubt had a seizure. Had wet himself. He was post-ictal. The history turned out to be he had brain trauma a year and a half ago in a car wreck. And he'd had a seizure earlier that day, like 12 hours before, 10 to 12 hours before. And then had a seizure that night, which was unusual. And the thing that the wife stressed the entire time was, I mean, she even got hit in her hands. I tell the story that way every time. The doctor said if he ever has 2 seizures back-to-back, which I don't count 10 hours as back-to-back, but 2 seizures back-to-back, he has to go to the ER. And I mean, that's where she met me at the door. I'm like, whoa, lady. And I was a lot more polite than that. I'm telling a very quick version of the story. But I was like, hold on. Let me figure out what's going on. And sure enough, I'm like, all right, man, let's go to the hospital. Well, I don't want to. And he was becoming more and more in his own mind. I'm like, you did, and she's yelling. I was like, I'm trying to convince him, hold on. And I'm trying very politely to handle her. And her her mother was already there. They'd already called her mom before we got there to come stay with the kids so that she could go with him to the hospital. So there's all this planning. I'm like, you can put him in the car. I mean, at this point, you literally can put him in the car. If you waited to get your mom here, he was in his right mind. He kept saying, I want to change. And I mean, it took 45 minutes to get to a point where I released the police officers anyway. And I said, I guess because I didn't realize they were still standing there. I was like, yeah, you guys can go if you want, whatever. But I was arguing with him about going. Come and go with me. He went to. She's yelling. She was. I called her a shrew. I mean, she was very much just nagging him. You're gonna do. And she turned it on me. I was like, I'm trying. Stop talking to me that way. He kept wanting to change his clothes because he peed himself. No. I said, dude, we've already been here 45 minutes. Standard scene time is like 6 minutes max. We've been here for 45 minutes. We need to go to the hospital. No, I want to change my story. So I'm like, here's what I'm going to tell you.
Right.
You're perfectly of your right mind. Your vital signs are perfectly in order. There's no indications you're going to have another seizure in the next 5 minutes. If you're going to come with me, you're going to get on the stretcher right now. I mean, the stretcher's sitting there in the living room of this apartment. Nope. And she goes, you go back there, you change your clothes. And she went back there with him. So I called my captain. I was like, my patient just walked away from me, and his wife told him to. They won't sign a refusal. He won't get on my stretcher. My partner, they get a minute, 60 seconds. We did a timer. If they're not, we're walking. We're just walking away. The cops were here. They saw what happened. We've got backup. We're going to walk away from this thing. And I don't know if that would have been a man-to-man. I don't know, but at 3 in the morning at this point, I didn't care anymore. She comes out. And she wants to do one more thing. I was like, no, we need to go now. It's been over an hour that we've waited on you. You could have put him in the car and in 5 minutes been in the ER an hour ago. Yeah. So she told me, do you know what your job is? This is where it goes into the inappropriate handling of that call. Because I did. I tried every professional way. Sir, come with, everything I could to get in. He wouldn't do it. Do you know what your job is? I was like, no, you tell me what my job is. And she started to, I'm like, no, you tell me what my job is. And she kind of took it back. She's like, you see, we had a yellow stretcher. I said, you see that stretcher? It didn't have black bars on it. This is not the yellow blankety blank cab company. I'm a MF paramedic. I mean, I'll let loose on it. And you're going to get your happy butt on that stretcher. And we're going to go, or we're walking away right now. You can just leave. Well, if I'd known yelling at you an hour and a half ago would have let me leave, I would have done that. Tom, though, because this is the evil side of me here, I still got a refusal. Because I was like, I can't leave unless you sign. I already had the document ready. Yeah, I had that ready to go. I wasn't going to start the full-on. I actually started a vital sheet already. But I was like, I need you to sign this. And he whipped it off. And he goes, okay, man, it's probably best you just go. And I'm out there, and I realized I need a social or his birthday or something. So I need his social security or his birthday. And so I knock on the door and made him reopen it to tell me his social and his birthday. And a couple hours later, we had a call, and they were in the ER themselves doing that. So there's definitely good ways and bad ways of doing things, and I ultimately handled it poorly. What would you possibly have done differently on that, Tom?
I'm not sure.
We're both trying to see if the broadcast is actually going or not.
Mine's saying it's interrupted.
Mine said it's interrupted too. Oh, hit the wrong button. And if it's not broadcasting, it's not recording. Because I didn't do a local recording. Let's see. Institute of EMS. So if it is broadcasting, you're getting some silence because we're trying to find out if it's actually broadcasting or not.
Yeah, there we are.
We're still going?
Yeah. Jason Cam said, I can still see and hear.
Good. Thank you, Jason. And what's up, Wesley? I don't know who you are, but Wesley, what's up? Okay, yeah. So that was weird. Maybe it was just a quick block. So, we can talk about assault. Have you ever been assaulted? Have you been peppered?
I have been held up at gunpoint.
This is good stuff. He's just not laughing at my stuff. You've been held up at gunpoint in the back of your truck?
Yeah, me and Jason Hale.
Oh, are you talking about the The get off my property one? Yeah. But have you ever actually had somebody put their hands on you? Or have you had to put your hands on somebody in a non-paramedic but violent kind of way?
No, I mean, I've had to restrain people.
But that's medical.
That's why we were there. And,
right.
You know, the family, that's why they called us, you know. But I've, you know, never gotten into it with anybody. I
put my hands on one person, and it was somewhat improper, somewhat necessary. We had a regular, and she had seizures, and she had a life cycle. Her life cycle was she'd be out of jail for a while, and would be on her medications, and be doing well, and decided, you know, some people do. They just have that cycle. They can't get their life right. Either they make mistakes, or they just choose to do stuff wrong to go back to jail. And she would go rob a place, break, you know, some law, not enough to get hard time, but to get a year or so in jail. And then after 6 months or so being in jail, she decided she didn't want to be there anymore, stopped taking her meds, have seizures again. And when she's in her right mind and you give her help, she was very nice. But when she wanted what she wanted, especially coming out of jail where they would treat her badly, I mean, you see regulars all the time. I'm not saying that jailers were mean or crossing any lines. I'm saying jail is not a nice place.
Right.
And when you're behind the bars, you're treated differently than when you're on the other side of the bars. And so when she comes out of that, very aggressive, very spitting, biting. I don't remember. She had some stuff that spitting, and she knew spitting was a dangerous thing. I don't remember exactly what illnesses she had. But we'd always go, all right, you know, come on. And I talked to her just very plainly. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take care of, you know, this and that and take her to the hospital. Well, my wife worked at the hospital at the time, and so did a lot of my friends. It's a small town hospital. And we always went to the local hospital first with the police officer, because that's what you had to do. And they would ultimately transfer her up because her meds would be off, her levels would be off, and they'd have to transfer her up to Athens. And usually the biting, the spitting, and the cursing, all the ugly names stop after about an hour. Well, this particular night it didn't. And she tried to bite my mother-in-law. She tried to bite my wife. She was spitting. And I finally just I restrained her with right here on the nerves, right? Just held her head and got right in the ear where nobody else could hear me. And in no uncertain terms, I said, you can carry on in the back of my truck. That's all you want. We're about to go to Athens. But I tell you right now, you do one more aggressive thing. I mean, I was very non-eloquent about it. But you do one more aggressive thing here in this ER, and I might accidentally end your life. And I wouldn't have, but and I told her, and I sold it. And she calmed down. And we got in the back of my truck. And then, but as I stepped back, I'm addressing her nicely and professionally. And here, we're going to help you. And I meant it. But I would let her know in no uncertain terms that this is how it's going to be. And again, I'm not saying it's proper. I'm not saying it's improper. It felt right at the time. It had an effect. I didn't punch her in the face. I didn't actually assault her. I maybe went a little too far medically restraining her, which would have been really hard to prove. And nobody knows what I said to her other than me and her. But sometimes you just have to tolerate this stuff, because she wasn't actually biting. She was trying to bite. She never actually bit anybody. She knew what she was doing. She never actually assaulted anybody. But she made you think she was going to.
Right. And
accidentally she could have, pushing that line. But yeah, I've never been assaulted. I've never had to get violent with people. I always threatened them. I did always tell them. Because maybe I was wrong, but I believed at the time there was some kind of law that said, if you put your hand on me, you're going to jail for a very long time. And I would tell them, if they threatened me, I was like, here's the deal. You can take a swing at me, and two things are going to happen. I'm going to take a fluid bag out there and beat the crap out of you with it, because it's not going to leave bruises. I don't know if it would or not, but I'm good at selling things to people when I don't want them to swing at me. And then I'm going to get the cops, and they're going to take you to jail. So not only are you going to be hurt, you're going to jail for a very long time. So you might want to rethink that.
Yeah.
I lie a lot in the back of the truck when I want my way, to control a patient. In poker we call it bluffing.
Right.
Nobody ever called my bluff.
Well, I think as long as you're always prepared, because it's one thing for you. You're a big guy.
Yeah.
But if you think about like some of the smaller folks.
Amy,
you know,
right?
Yeah, like Amy that works here, or Nicole, my daughter, you know,
Yep.
or Megan, my daughter, who are just finished up EMT and stuff. You know, they're not going to be able to do that.
That's true.
You know, they're going to have
That's
other
true.
things. So you need to have a plan in place. You know, not just wait till it happens. Like, what are we going to do? You know, if a patient becomes violent in the back of the truck, you know, get out of the truck. You know, get them out of the truck. Lock the doors. You know, if you need to.
I don't know if this is true or not. I was told a story where this is what I was taught in school, and this is the story I was told in school of, you know, what happens when, you know, you're transporting a patient that just wants to leave. You know, a combative patient. It may have been even in the situation of the police. I mean, they were stressing, we are not the police. We do not arrest anybody. We don't allow handcuffs in the back of our truck if we can help it. We use the soft restraints because that's our world. And the story went that basically, and it came from Curtis Arthur, so I have a tendency to believe it. But they were going to Atlanta from Athens one day from a guy from the jail, and the guy's like, I'm leaving. And he was a big guy, kind of like me, and he took off the buckle, started to sit up, and Curtis is a nice, tall, can handle himself, but skinny guy. But again, he wasn't stressing, it's not about you fighting them. It's about, I'm not the police. He goes, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not the cops. He goes, we can pull over, and the cops are right behind us. We'll pull up. Nope, the guy took off outside the door at 60 miles an hour.
That's like going to the jail, and
What are you
know,
gonna do?
we used to do it quite often, where we would get called to jail. Somebody would get pulled over for DUI, they're arrested, or they were in the jail for some minor offense, but they were arrested, but all of a sudden they're starting to have chest pain.
Oh, always.
You know, so then we get called out, and then we transport them to the hospital, and they put us in the back of the truck by ourselves with this patient because, you know, it's a low risk patient. Dude had a DUI, or hadn't paid his child support or something.
Yeah.
It's never
warrant
been like
out for something.
It's never been like a murderer or something like that.
Right.
So we are transporting them, and this has happened a couple of times in my career where we're halfway to the hospital, and they AMA'd. They want out right now, and legally we have to. We pull over and
we
go
are
let them
not
out.
the police.
But sure enough, we told dispatch
They're gone.
they're gone. We called it a bush bond. They bush bonded. But why would you do that? I don't understand people. You got a DUI. I understand. You're going to be in some trouble. But boy, now you're really, because where are you going to hide?
Right.
I mean, are you really going to go into deep hiding because you got a DUI?
Well, that's the thing too. DUI, they're not thinking their right minds anyway.
Yeah.
They're just starting to panic. I'll try to talk you down, but I'll never stop you because it's not my job. My job is to help you. Not help you escape, but my job is to help your problem, your medical necessity. And if you want to walk out, I'll be more than happy to get my partner to pull over on the side of the road. And there you go. Never had to do it.
Not going to see, that's the thing, about like the violence. Maybe I could have said, no, we're taking you to the hospital. Sucks being you or whatever. Well, I mean, he could have got violent.
Yeah.
He just said no and jumped out of the truck and caused more problems.
I mean, there are fine lines to that. Suicide attempts, they have to go to the hospital. They don't necessarily have to go with us.
But we would restrain them.
Yeah, right.
If we needed to.
Not in your right mind, provably.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So, talking about writing, I got another question about it, but I'm going to ask that in a second. But going along these lines with DUIs, with police getting involved, have you ever allowed or requested a sheriff's deputy to ride in the back with you? When was that?
After a domestic dispute, it was me and another male partner, and the female was really intoxicated, really unruly, and one moment she would almost be inappropriate. And
so it's for your protection.
She would
legally.
Sometimes she would get violent sometimes, but she was on that borderline of she's not really to the point where I can restrain her, but there's the potential that this is going to go bad, and I had them ride in the back with me. And I've also had them ride in the back with me. Like if they're going to be arrested, they ride in the back. If they're going to put handcuffs on them, they need to accompany.
Well,
I'm not transporting
I'm always
the
meant to
handcuffs.
take handcuffs off. Right. Yeah, I'm not transporting handcuffs.
You know, and the handcuffs can't go to the stretcher. They can go in the front.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, but
yeah.
never put anything that you can't undo quickly on the stretcher.
Yeah.
Because if the ambulance catches on fire and you can't find the key to the handcuffs, you know that.
Well, that's my thing is I don't want to keep to the handcuffs. I don't. I'm a big, like you said, I am a big guy, and I would take up a certain amount of room in the truck. There's there's not unlimited space back there, and I didn't really want anybody riding with me, so I would make them take off the cuffs. And some of that too.
But I think
was
there's some situations where legally they can't take the cuffs off.
Well, I was never in that situation.
You know,
and I didn't have to experience that.
If they're being like charged with homicide, my situation was the guy was being charged for homicide, vehicular homicide, but still homicide,
Sure.
and he was going to jail, and he was injured from the accident, but he wasn't injured bad enough. I think he had some lacerations. That needed to be sewed up, so I have to take him to the ER first. And but yeah, they had to ride in because he had to be restrained.
Yeah.
I've had it where I've had to tell the police they had to take the cuffs off because the patient was in such bad shape. Bad car wreck. I had one where one was ejected off down I-20. They were running from the police because they'd robbed somewhere.
Right.
And then they lost control, wrecked. He was ejected, but, and of course the police do their job. They got, they're not EMTs, so they got him handcuffed. But then we get there, dude's low sick, bad sick. So we got to get these cuffs off,
Yeah. Well,
so we can do our job.
Let's talk about that a little side note, especially with certain things that have happened in the recent history in America. It's always come up over time. Police officers, justified or not, we're not talking about the controversy, but if a police officer shoots somebody, the first thing they're going to do is handcuff them. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of civilians, a lot of antagonists, and be like, why you handcuff them? Why you do this? Because that's their number one protection. And that's the law. Yeah. If they're going to arrest somebody, restrain somebody, they have to either use the zip cuffs or metal cuffs, but they restrain them. So even if somebody, like you were talking about with the ejection, they were arresting that guy, period. Mm-hmm. He had to be restrained, and they had to call you, the medics. So there is a back and forth on it, but immediately they restrain him because that's what has to happen by their safety standards, and it is a protection to everybody.
And because so many times you never know what happens. Dude may be laying there right now.
Right.
But then things could change on them, and they don't know that. But I've never had a problem. Whenever I've asked for the cuffs to come off, it's never been like a second guess or anything. They knew they had to do it. They were just doing their job, just like us doing our job. I mean, we get questioned about starting IVs. Do you really have to start an IV on this patient? Well, yeah, we need to,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think it matters. You're going to be questioned, but I've never had an issue with law enforcement because every time it's always been, even though the patient's being arrested and stuff, every law enforcement officer I've ever worked with has been like, yeah, they did bad, they're going to jail, but their life is a priority, and they do that. So
the flip side of that is civilians. How many people are allowed to ride in the ambulance with the patient? Then there's a follow-up to that.
Well, it depends on where you work. Right? It's up to the employer, too.
Okay.
I know I worked for a service where none were allowed.
Really?
In the back.
Man, that's a hard sell when you're a medic on the scene.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you can't go.
But it did it. And
well, you had to. It was your job.
You can ride up front.
Well, that's what. Okay, just in general. Yeah, we have up front and in back.
Yeah.
So the employer said nobody in back.
In the back.
But they can ride up front.
Yeah, because of the insurance
I got purposes.
You. But they were allowed to ride up front. There's a big window, a big opening there. They could see their loved one, and we made sure that, they could see each other, they could talk. But I'm going to tell you, doing that, because even through my career, even when I've worked places where you could have somebody ride in the back, I'd tell parents all the time, no, you have to ride up front. because in that first formative years of my career where I had to have everybody ride up front, one thing I learned is that whenever you have the kids like hysterical crying when they see mommy.
Yeah.
But you get mommy out of the window, they calm down. You get mommy up front, they calm down. But whenever you get to the hospital and you open up the back doors and mommy's sitting there, what happens?
They'll freak
They
out
start crying because they're used to.
Yeah.
But, well, they know. Okay, if you're hungry and there's food in the refrigerator right there, what do?
Yeah.
You go open the refrigerator door and get some food, right?
Sure. Okay.
Well, the kid has learned, okay, I want something, so when I see mommy, I cry, I get something.
There's a natural response to that, too. Like with smaller kids, I noticed when my kids were toddlers, that if they were playing outside and they fell and scraped their, maybe not cut something open, but fell, and I didn't say anything, they didn't know I saw them, they might kind of whimper a little bit, brush themselves off, and move on. But if I went, oh, you okay? Crying, needs to be comforted, same thing. And I've actually, interestingly enough, if they're in trouble and you pop them on the hand, they'll bawl for days. If you're playing with them and you wail the crap out of their butt, playing with them, laugh forever. You know, it's like, when I spank you, the pop on the hand or whatever, is 1,000 times softer than when I'm playing with you. And that's what, So it's a psychological thing with kids and parents.
It's kind of like, sometimes like with the, with kids, like my son, for example, he's wrestling, right? Okay. He goes to wrestling practice, comes home, black eye, bruises, hurt, or whatever. But sure enough, I spank him, you would have thought I was killing him.
Right.
I'm like, really? You go and you get your butt beat, for, hours upon hours every day. But yet you get here and you get 3 licks because, you hit you spit in your sister's face or something and you get 3 licks on the tush. You thought that, oh my gosh, the whole world was in there.
So, I've been the same way with patients riding. First, depends on the situation. Like if it's really fast, I'm not even going to, if my concern is saving a life, you jump in the back, you jump in the front, right, never in the back. I'm not going to let my partner argue with you. I don't care. I don't care how you're getting home. I'm worried about this. If you make that choice, buckle up. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, I'd let somebody in the back, depending on the situation of what was going on. But typically, no. But there were definitely a third situation where someone's like, I want to ride. And I look at him and go, how are you getting home? Because he will be discharged in a couple of hours. It's enough. Either they're requesting me to take him to the hospital, so it's like just a ride to the hospital, or it's still, I need to take them. I feel more comfortable taking them than putting them in a car, or maybe they can't set up, whatever. Non-emergency, not code 3, emergency, but still I need to handle it. I will take the moment and say, that's fine. You can ride up front, not in the back. I've had people argue about that, not in the back. But how are you going to get home? You need to think about that. Right. I had one person tell me to mind my own business. Went, okay. Up in front you go.
But my answer to the question on my part, I rarely let people ride in the back. There's been a few times where I do. Looks like we had a question about liability insurance for EMTs and paramedics in case of issues in practice, and I say yes. I've always said yes because, the employer is responsible to provide malpractice insurance for the employer. Now you're under that umbrella. But let's say you're out there and it's something, and it's my word against yours, right?
Sure.
So, and there's no other way to prove what happened besides your word and my word.
Or maybe they have some minor proof that you could explain away. If you'd written a really detailed document, maybe you pencil whipped your document and now you didn't really explain the situation. You don't remember it.
When the employer's insurance, when it comes down between you and the employer,
if they can find a way to bump you're out.
Yeah, they're going to throw you under the bus and save the employer.
That's why you need insurance is. Insurance is guys who want to make money who have lawyers to protect that money. And yes, like you said, the company will pay for umbrella insurance, a decent policy. That's for if you do right legally and they're trying to sue the company, the insurance is there to protect the company. Mm-hmm. But if they can find any way you did wrong, Didn't cross an I, didn't cross a T. It's not that sensitive.
Where it comes into play is like, what if you did do half wrong?
Yeah.
You know,
what if you did make a mistake?
And it's time to settle. You know, if they're going to make a negotiation, you may be having to come out of your pocket, because the only person who's representing anybody is the employer.
Right. You don't have a
so
lawyer.
So you need a lawyer in the fight that says, oh.
And I've heard of situations like that where there's three sets. There's the person suing, there's a company insurance with a lawyer, and then there's you and your insurance and your lawyer.
It's very inexpensive. It's less than somewhere around $100 a year, and it's tax deductible.
Get $1 million policy.
Yeah, and it's tax deductible, and they provide you legal.
Yeah.
So you're talking about $100 a year. What is that? A couple times out, maybe to the movies twice a year, or people can come up with $100 somewhere. I mean, if you for a whole year, you're talking about pennies a week to protect you, and protect your family.
I have strong thoughts on insurance as a money making thing. And I have very strong thoughts on when you focus on the worst that can happen, you're only going to invite the worst that can happen. But when we're talking about the possibility of one, and it can be one simple mistake can cost you everything you have in life when you're just intentionally trying to do good.
But you know how
it's nothing to buy this insurance to make sure it's covered.
Yeah, it's like this, like the services, they have policies and stuff, but how many times they've had there's a policy, but they're breaking the policy as much as anybody else.
Yeah,
you get there and protocol says you're supposed to do this, this, and this, but then you're out of that drug that week. So what do? Or you're running low on glucometer, so they're telling you, hey, be careful on how many people you're checking blood sugar on this week. Or something like that, Or the pulse ox that you've turned in told your supervisor 100 times, it does not work right. It's shorting out, and they still don't fix it. And then, but whenever you go to court, you're on the stand.
Right.
They're going to, that other attorney.
You're rolling the dice. It's a gamble. We don't know how it'll turn out, but it's a gamble.
It is. But I'd rather have somebody protecting me.
Yep.
Versus protecting them.
When it comes down to it, where's the money come from? If it's a company paying them, they're protecting the company. If it's you paying them, they're protecting you. That lawyer-client privilege is only when you're the one paying the bill. I watch a lot of TV, and I like a show called Suits, and they just had an episode where this guy's medical records, he talked to a counselor, right, a psychologist, and she was forced to reveal what he said because the company paid for it and he had signed a waiver to go see her. So that was the whole deal. If the money came from the company, now it's legal. It's their privilege, not his.
It belongs to them.
Same thing with insurance. So here's another good question. With the advent of advanced phones, people can video you while in action. How do you manage confidentiality of patient care and family members? My simple answer is I don't. If somebody else has a phone and they're videoing me, that's them. I can't do anything.
You may say something to the police, but we can't. Now, if they're trying to do it in the back of my truck, now they're trespassing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you're trespassing.
But can they hold it up to the window without being in the truck? Can. Yeah,
I've had news crews do that.
It's not my job I believe, correct me if I'm wrong if you have a different opinion, I believe my job with HIPAA is I don't talk about your medicine.
Yeah.
That's your right.
But it's somebody else.
My job is not to protect you from other people discovering it.
Right.
Right?
It's my job not to expose it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, it's, we're not security, so, and it's public. Like, if I'm in somebody's living room, I'm not going to sit there and tell you, hey, you need to put your phone down. You can't do that. That's their home. That's their right.
Yeah.
Now the police officer can.
Yeah. Yeah, they absolutely can.
They
can enforce a barrier zone.
Yep, and that's their job, and I would do that. So,
even on the street, you work an accident in downtown Covington that's slow enough that people can be on sidewalks, they can run. Hey, if they take videos and pictures, that's
their
them.
right. It's a public thing.
Right.
It's like
I'm all for you videotaping me because I always operate as in I had nothing to hide. But as far as the patient confidentiality, nothing I can do.
No, not at that point.
So
what do you think about Bulletproof Vest?
I had one at a point. That's another question. Some people think that Bulletproof Vest should be available in ambulances in case you're responding to a dangerous scene. Here's the thing. It doesn't work that way. If you have a vest, you have to wear it all the time. Because that's the only way it works. Because you never actually know what's going to happen. I prefer to believe in safety. I personally prefer to I
just don't get in that situation.
Yeah, I walked into a couple situations that were somewhat dangerous, but I walk in, I don't know, with a confidence, with an awareness, with a trust of my instincts, with knowing that I go home tomorrow, and you can't know that. I choose to believe that, though. What do you choose to believe? Do you choose to believe you're going to be in danger all the time, you're going to die instantly? Well, maybe you will. I go in, every situation I'm going to, I don't put myself at risk needlessly, ever. And I've trusted my instincts. And I've had partners who wouldn't go into a place with me. I go in, and I've talked to violent people before and just said, hey, I connect with them. I'm just here to help you. I'm not the cop. I don't care. I don't care what you're going to do. And also, like you said, I'm a big guy. I carry myself in a way that is intimidating sometimes, especially when I'm on the truck and I'm there to focus on a job. I can be very intimidating. And I have no problems breaking somebody in.
I think it also depends on where you work. I think there's probably some areas of Atlanta where if you're assigned to that district, you probably should wear it all the time.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of violence. But
I had one in Athens for a while. They for whatever reason they decided to buy it. If you want it, it's optional. And I just kind of like cool things. I wanted to try it out, so I did. And I wore that vest every single day. And in the summertime, it was hot. I never got shot at. I never needed it. And it was kind of worthless. But you can't just choose when to wear it.
Right.
You said you worked in a bad area. Would you have worn a vest in that area in Alabama where you had the big fences and security guard? No?
Probably not. I mean, I wore, when I was on the SWAT team here, we had to wear them all the time when we were.
Oh, that's right.
And it was they're heavy, they're hot, and, and they limit what you can do.
Yeah.
As well.
Yes, exactly. Especially when you're bigger guys or even ladies. I mean, ladies in general are going to have a different fit, and that's going to be irritating to them. So I don't know. I don't know. Here, Brent DeMark says, would one be provided during a terrorist act as a precaution for secondary attack on first responders? I would say no, and here's why I say no. When I had my vest, I had to be fitted for the vest. It had to be made for me. They had to order it in a certain style or whatever. I imagine yours is the same way.
Right.
So, while in general, maybe would be the answer. Maybe if there's a big attack like the World Trade Center, and now with what we know about secondary attacks, and that maybe there'd be somewhat of a surplus. But these things at the time that I got one were $500 a piece, if not more. So it's not like police departments have a huge excess of them sitting around. And then quite possibly if they had a few, you might, if you're an average build, average height, whatever, you might have one that fits you. Right?
Right.
But in general, it's just no. I mean, a vest isn't going to protect you from a bomb or an airplane or a sniper.
It may protect you from some, at least your vital organs, from some shrapnel. When I was in the Army,
I got plenty of protection of my vital organs.
when I was in the Army, we had to wear frag vests, which were not bulletproof vests, but they protected you from fragmentation.
They had the big plates in them or whatever, right?
And we wore them all the time, and they were heavy. But as a medic, we learned you train with them so much, and you wear them all the time, so you get used to doing it that way.
Yeah.
But on the truck, usually like Brent, if it was like a big terrorist attack, more than likely the triage areas are going to be away from there. The transportation sector is going to be set up somewhere away from there, but you do always have to be on that lookout for the secondary attack, Because, sometimes that's why they're luring us in. You got the primary bomb, and then they get the secondary bomb, which is for the responders. So,
and if you really think about it, first responders covers police, everybody. And typically in those situations, the police are the first responders. And I had never had that situation, but I was always trained that you bring them to me. And no, there was one situation where they wouldn't cut, for whatever reason they thought I was being silly, they wouldn't cut the cable to the battery of the car when the airbag had not deployed. And there was extensive damage to the front end. And I tell you what, I watched, I don't know, jump out the stuff you get trained in school, going back to what we said in the beginning of the show. I watched a lot of videos that came out of the New York Fire Department that was cut together of airbag deployments when they had not cut the battery, when they had not taken the, and it burned into my brain. I can still see one of them where they'd cut the top off the car and the firefighters in there trying to cut the console to get this person out and cut right across the middle of the console, and there goes the airbag, and he flew. And you could tell instantly his legs were broken, and it was not going to happen. So I said, all right, you bring them to me. And that's what you do in those situations. And people might get mad at you, like, no, you understand, I am the help. I am the only person who can save your butt. Unfortunately, you got to go put your butt on the line to get your buddy to get onto me, because if I go in there and die, ain't nobody going to help anybody.
Well, that's why now you've got new special. EMS has now got a lot of subspecialties. And like when James and I were doing it, we were one of the first in the area being on the tactical teams. But now it's out there. Now you've got a lot of people who are being trained to be on these response teams, and like they would be the ones in the hot zone bringing them to the transport sector or to the triage sector. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of some municipalities who've been sued, and that's why you're seeing tactical medicine come into play, because these municipalities have been sued, because when the police go in, the job of the police, they step over the casualties or the people who are hurt. Their job there is to neutralize the threat initially. But as they're moving down the hall, that zone's been cleared, it's still hot, but it's cool enough where specially trained medics can go in, start some treatments. And the thing is, and people will think like, ooh, I want to be a tactical medic. It's so cool. And it is pretty cool, but you're not really doing any advanced care.
Right.
Your care is, number one,
triage and bandage, right?
Is stop. Like most of us, we do airway, breathing, circulation. I know that AHA is now CAB, where you start compressions. However, in reality, though, if you're treating a trauma patient that's laying on the floor and they're bleeding, it's airway, breathing, circulation still, right?
Sure.
So, but as a tactical medic, whenever you come in the door and dude's bleeding, you're going to stop bleeding first. It's bleeding, airway. Bleeding and airway first. Bleeding comes first. Because, one, it's assumed that if you're bleeding, your heart's probably beating, and there's a good chance you're breathing. There's not much you can do for breathing under fire. Right. You got to get them out. Stop the bleeding. Because shock is a number one thing that kills people. And these terrorist type events, or these horrendous domestic events where, people where the SWAT team's being called out. Stop the bleeding. If you have to throw in an oral airway at the most, and get them out, to a warm zone at least, so that they can be taken to a cold zone and get treated and transported.
All right. Well, we are at our time for today.
Okay.
So I'm going to leave you with a question for everybody for next week. You can share your stories, and we'll tell you about how to do all of that here in just a second. But for Tom and I, we're going to start off next week with, has your ambulance ever gotten into an accident with an emergency in progress? And that's something to think about. And for those of you who haven't had that happen, think about what you would do. What's the process? What has happened around you if you're aware of that kind of thing? And we'll come back next week and start with that. But now, the email address is emsunderground@georgiainstituteofems.com, right? I believe it is, yeah. GeorgiaEMT.com. Dang
Georgia
it. Yeah, wrong time.
GAIEMS.com.
Okay. Is it GAIEMS.com? All right. We'll double verify that. But I thought it was GeorgiaEMT.com.
That's the website.
Okay, but the email address comes from
GAIMS.
We're still working on everything. But you can indeed tell us about the school real quick. What's coming up with the school? I know you got a new poster up now with the
we've got
life support.
We've got a new EMT class starting here in the next few weeks. So if you're wanting to get into the new EMT class, give us a call. 678-561-AEMT or 2368. That's 678-561-2368. You can go to georgiaemt.com for more information. We'd love to have you in our next classes coming up.
And the email address for the show is EMS Underground at GAIEMS for Georgia Institute of EMS, GAIEMS.com. You can find out more about me at charlesmcfall.com. And I think that's about it. Oh, Facebook, like it, share it, subscribe. We're going to try to do events. But if you do that little notification that says, let Georgia Institute of EMS know, or let us know, let us tell you when we're live, it'll put up a ping on your page. It'll hit your phone. So like this page, Georgia Institute of EMS, and let us tell you when we're live, and so on and so forth.
And I'd like to say, RIP to Glenn and Abraham.
Spoilers, man, too soon. With that, we will be back next week at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, so tune in.